Welcome to Immigration Uncovered, the DocketWise video podcast, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of immigration law. I'm your host, James Pittman, co-founder of DocketWise. And today I have with me two very special guests. We have Scott Berry, who is the founder of MarketCrest, which is an award-winning digital marketing agency focusing on law firms. And we have Lucine Agajanian. She is the founder of LT Global Practice Management, a consultant who helps lawyers maximize their operations and profitability. Welcome, Scott and Lucine.
Oh, James, thank you.
Thank you, James.
Great to have you here. All right, so I'm just going to get started. Let's just have Scott introduce himself. So, Scott, just tell us about your background. So you have a marketing background. How did you get involved in specializing in marketing for the legal industry?
Yeah, I graduated in marketing, and I spent a couple decades in the corporate world, chief sales and marketing officer for several billion-dollar companies. And back in about 2015, opened up my own agency. And one of our first clients, purely by accident, was an immigration law firm that was doing about $700,000 a year in revenue, never been to seven figures. And so we got that opportunity. We did what we do in our core business as a digital marketing agency and took them immediately to 3 million, then immediately to 5 million. And that really kicked off everything for us. Word got out, and we ended up getting into other Texas cities just through referrals, and ended up going west and then up California. And then we've got clients in like Detroit, Chicago, and New York, and then came back down to the Carolinas and Florida, all immigration law clients. So it was a little bit by accident, but that was 2016. And we've just had we've kind of figured out the Rubik's Cube on immigration law marketing.
Okay. Do you want to? I mean, we're going to go into depth, but can you give me the nutshell version of the Rubik's Cube?
Well, yeah, it's a combination of digital advertising and SEO. So a combination of paid advertising and organic. Paid is very quick. Organic takes a little bit longer, but once organic kicks in, then it lowers your total cost per lead in about half. And so if you're able to do that effectively, it's a very powerful combination, and it's almost 100% effective.
Okay. All right. And let's have Lucine introduce herself. Lucine, so tell us about LT Global and how did you go? So were you a practicing attorney, and how did you get into the management consulting business?
Certainly. Thank you, James. I started my career from managing departments at law firm. My background is in legal, so I am an attorney from a foreign country. Came to the United States and started pursuing my further education in LLM from Southern Methodist University. I've chosen not to practice, but to manage. And furthered my career towards recruiting and staffing and excelled in that as well. And given that my background is international, I see things from the global standpoint. That allowed me to merge the world, so to speak, and position myself as a manager and staffer that is available to provide resources worldwide. Hence, I've merged my education and background and doing both, created the business and found it to be a niche. And as the saying goes, you don't need to do a lot of schooling, you don't need to read or write a lot of books, but you kind of need to figure out what the people need and cater to that market. And it just like with Scott, it fell in my lap. And I started LT Global Practice Management less than 10 years ago, and it's been gradually growing. So which I'm really grateful for that.
And you and Scott actually oftentimes work together with clients. How did you meet each other?
Yeah, well, we actually met back in 2016 when I was
Hmm.
talking about that first client.
Yes.
Believe it or not, she was helping on the operation side, and we were helping on the marketing side. So we've known each other really the entire life cycle of us, and working with immigration clients. So, and
Mhm.
we work with clients together all over the US.
Wonderful. All right, so Scott, let's talk about a little bit about the main challenges law firms face in marketing their services effectively. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm glad you said Maine, um, because there are so many challenges for law firms. I mean, I think you'd fill up an entire page if you tried to jot down everything that a law firm owner has to deal with in order to try to grow and scale. And admittedly, I think it's really frustrating. There are tons of people trying to get your ad dollars. I mean, everybody, once they know that you're advertising and marketing, they all want a piece of that, whether it's going to help you or not. They have sales quotas. And so you're getting it from everybody, NOLA and Avo and Martindale Hubble and your local digital. I mean, just everybody wants in your pockets. And it can get really frustrated because after a few years, I think law firm founders get really disillusioned about marketing and does it work and who can I trust? And so we found in interviewing a lot of the people, because, we have a podcast as well. So we meet an unusual number of immigration and family law firms across the US. So we always take that time to ask them, what are your challenges and what's causing this and what's causing that? And one of the things that we find is that they don't know who to trust. They just have never found someone that they can trust that will deliver without any excuses. And that's a real challenge for law firms trying to grow. I think the second thing that we see the most is they've agreed to a proposal or a package that's really unrelated to their goals. And what I mean by that is in their mind, they may be thinking, hey, we're going to get, seven figures this year, or we're going to go 2 million. And then they buy, if you will, like a package of, 2 grand in SEO, or I'm going to spend 3,000 on Google ads. But if you do the math, no one has done the math to see whether or not that's what they need in order to hit their goal. It may sound simple, but I'm telling you, people don't ever do that math early on to see if they even have a chance. And that really causes people to really miss out and get frustrated and disillusioned.
Yes. And you mentioned your podcast. I do want to, if I didn't mention it at the beginning, I do want to say Scott is also the host of the Immigration Nation podcast. And he'll tell us at the end how to check him out on the podcast. But Scott, how do you approach creating a marketing plan of which takes into account a law firm's specific goals and objectives?
That's exactly what law firm founders should be asking is, what's a marketing plan that's tailored specifically to me and my goals for like 2025 and my objectives? Unfortunately, that's not what we tend to ask. We ask things like, well, how much do you charge? Right? Because they don't know any better and they haven't had good coaching, the average law firm. And so if you're asking how much do you charge, and you know, you're forcing people to say, well, I've got this package and this package. And again, you've got that huge disconnect between where you're trying to go right now and what you're capable of because of the package that you've purchased. So, um, sadly, there's a real disconnect between where the firm is going um, and what they need in order to hit their goals. So one of the things we did was we created using an Excel spreadsheet, what we call a calculator. It's a calculator that allows the law firm to put on the first tab how successful their immigration or family intake team is. So when they get leads, how many of those get converted into a booked consult, how many consults actually happen, how many of those consults are a fit, and then out of those that are a fit, how many of those consults do they actually win and get hired on. So once they have a sense for how many leads that their their specific intake team needs to get a hired case, now we can set forth, hey, we want to do 2 million and new business, or 1 million in new business. Then we can calculate exactly how many leads that they need based on how effective their intake team is. So now they've got a shot from the very first month to reach their goals. And so it's a little bit of a kind of masters in business approach. But if you use that approach, it's incredibly effective in helping a firm reach their very specific goals and objectives.
Okay. That's fascinating and, sounds like a very, very data-driven approach,
Yes.
very systematic approach, and I'm sure it's taken you a while to iron that out and perfect it. Let's give Lucine a chance. Lucine, so as far as the operational side, how does LT Global approach analyzing a firm's business operations, and what are some of the common inefficiencies and shortcomings that you've encountered?
Certainly. And as the saying goes, everything commences at the top level. Understanding what the uh, law firm owner um, had envisioned, what objectives they've put in front of themselves and their team is very important. A lot of times I'll get into a law firm and those objectives, those core values, vision, vision, mission, values have not been defined. And that's where we start. We start with defining what is it that we're trying to accomplish for the owner and the team to be able to execute. And typically we'll spend the first couple of weeks just doing that. And then we'll reverse engineer. And now that we've set the goals, we'll start working on the loopholes within the firm. A lot of times I'll find that it has to do with with the staff. Although I don't like the word staff, I individualize everything and everybody. But we start evaluating the team members, and we assign this good old KPIs around everyone's activity to where everything is measurable. Again, that's another loophole that a lot of law firms don't really pay attention to, but we define the key performing indicators and make everything measurable to where it's no extra work on the management side, but the folks themselves end up delivering their key performing indicators and self-reporting the things that we're setting around every single individual within the firm. And the KPIs could be according to their position, according to their tasks. We individualize it. Every firm has different tasks, different matrix that they will have. So those are the two main loopholes that I usually see that require correcting. And what as soon as we will set everything up, then everything starts running as a well-oiled machine to where um, the management is just probably 10% of your task. But that all needs to be set up properly and accurately. Also, the technology is a big friend of ours. I always want to make sure that we have proper CRM that we've incorporated. If we don't have a CRM, most of the times the law firms would be operating, believe it or not, in Excel spreadsheets, or they may have various CRM systems, and most of them would be underutilized. So I'd come in and I'll customize it for them. So that's kind of the third loophole, if you want to say, that many law firms end up encountering, to where they just need that help to set it up properly for the team members to operate according to the vision that the top management would put in place.
Mhm. And let's talk about some of the strategies that you use to help the firms with the workflow and the communication with their clients.
Certainly. So, workflows are very, very important in the case management process. Given that not every single person at the firm is trained or at the same level, we do need to have workflows to lead the cases to completion. And it also helps with communication amongst the team members. So, we instead of looking at pages of notes. We look at the workflows and to understand where exactly we're in the process and the case processing. It also allows us to communicate with our clients through the portal. Should we have workflows or portal that's available to keep our clients updated, the clients updated, right? So client communication is very important. One number one bar complaint is usually my attorney didn't communicate with me. They didn't call me, didn't text me. Nobody cares about me. So when the portal is updated, and that's part of the KPIs to have the portal updated, then the client communication increases, so as internal communication.
Let's talk a little bit about results now. So for Scott, Scott, we've talked about how you develop the marketing plan. So now how do you go back and measure the success of marketing campaigns? So what are some of the key metrics and how do you weigh them when you're gauging success?
Yeah, James, a great question. And why this is such a challenge is when a law firm is working with like a website developer, then the website developer will say, "Oh, well, the way you measure things is, you know, the speed and the health of the website, load times, and all that kind of stuff." If you're talking to an SEO guy, then he's reporting, "Well, we're ranking for 10 keywords and we moved up 3 spots." And so, depending on if you're talking to an email marketer, right, to follow that theme, then they're saying, "Well, the emails are opened, this many times and we had this many unsubscribes." But the real thing that law firm founders really need to focus on if they want to grow and scale is ROI. That is so far and away the most important measurement at the level of a law firm founder. So you can call it return on investment, you can call it return on marketing investment, but the goal is and should always be to spend 10 and make 50. And if you're doing that, then everything makes sense and you can scale to whatever size that you want. Um, but if we're looking at the wrong things, we're just showing incremental progress. And what ends up happening, in my experience, is the law firm founder says, "Look, man, like we can't do this anymore. Like I can't afford it, and it's just not working out." And what they're really saying is, "I'm not getting a good enough return on my investment to keep this going." They just don't necessarily know how to say it. So, return on marketing investment is so far and away the thing that everyone needs to really be focusing on.
So you said 5 times return on investment. Is this a benchmark that is sort of like a generalized benchmark that you use or
Another great question. So, the return on investment is going to vary by the campaign, and for the overall campaign. So let me say it this way: is if we're working with a client to move them from 1 million to 2 million, we might be running 10 different campaigns. There might be some advertising campaigns on Facebook, on Google. There might be email marketing, there's social media marketing, there's website work, there's content marketing campaigns, there's SEO campaigns, right? So we're monitoring all of these things. And the ultimate goal is to make sure that each campaign is functioning well and giving us a good return, and that overall they're getting a good return on their marketing investment. And so on certain campaigns, like a nice, well-performing Google ad campaign for a law firm, it would be normal if there was a month where they had a 7, 8, or 9 times ROI. But then at the same time, if they're not far enough on their search engine optimization or content marketing campaigns, if they just started investing, they might have done some content, some SEO work, and maybe only gotten one case. So maybe there's just a one-time ROI. So I think you're going to see individual campaigns anywhere between, no return early on to maybe a 9 times return. And then what you're hoping for is a blend, and what you're looking for is a blend that lands you somewhere between 4, 5, and 6 times ROI. That's what I'm seeing with very successful law firms.
okay. So let's give a few examples if you can of some successful marketing campaigns. Can you just throw out a couple so we can sort of visualize?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we got a lot on our website and all. Um, there is just to pick a few. Um, there's the first one that we talked about where Lucine and I were working together, and um, and we took the client from 700,000 to 3 million and to 5 million, and they've been at 5 million every single year after that. They've hit their target. We've also got a lot of recognition. You might even can see some of these um, trophies behind us for our work with a client in California that was doing about 600, and we were able to take them to 1 million and then to 2 million. And she's hitting 2 million on a very consistent basis. And both of these clients are doing the right thing. They are not investing just in one channel, because if you invest in just one channel for success, then if something happens to that channel, you're devastated. And I do see that a lot. People that have only one core channel, maybe they go around and they do speaking engagements, and then if something happens and they can't do those speaking things, they may drop $1 million just like that. Or they have a special contact that's feeding them cases, and then something happens with that contact, you can lose 800,000 just like that. So, you know, one of the things that I'm proud about these case studies is they've got leads coming in that are turning into cases from advertising, and then also from the website, and then also from social media and from Google. So a really nice, safe campaign that is going to produce for you every single year is one that is built around 3 or 4 main channels, which is probably, paid advertising, the website, the Google business profile, and some social media. And look, if like there are people that are really into TikTok.
Right.
So they have decided to really invest in that, and it's going well for them, which I love. But you know what you read, right? So there's a lot of stuff being read right now. Man, if they pull that out from underneath people and that's 75% of their lead source, you may be having to let people go very quickly. So that's just a current example of why you don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Absolutely. And Scott is obviously talking about the potential ban of TikTok. We're going to come back and talk about some of those other channels in a little more detail in a minute. But let's shift over to Lucine and talk about balancing costs with service quality. So law firms, especially often, well, in general, but especially when they're first starting out, they're very concerned about costs and potential cost overruns. So Lucine, how do you balance reducing costs or holding costs down, with maintaining or improving the quality of service?
Absolutely. Cost is always going to be there. It's a decision to be made how and what type of organization we're going to be building. However, we can reduce the cost, right? And reduction in costs happens when we utilize the technology to our advantage. That's number one. And number two, like I mentioned in the beginning of our um, podcast, utilizing worldwide talent is another. So we want to keep the costs down, utilizing that talent that's well trained and educated, knows how to use the technology to our advantage, and to be able to meet those KPIs and matrix and to give us the ROI that we're looking to accomplish. So, just like Scott, I also focus on, 5 times the pay, so to speak. So, and we also measure how much our case cost us. Um, Luckily, the CRM systems that we use, I traditionally suggest using my case for multi-practice practices, and for immigration clients, definitely DocAdvice and my case. So, or just doc advice. So we are measuring everything that we can to be able to provide to meet our ROI and keep the cost down.
Understood. And from cost to the idea of scaling. So it's all about scaling, right? That's growth. Growth involves scaling. So, what advice do you give to firms who want to scale up, but they're concerned that, as they automate and as they get bigger, they don't want to lose the quality of the client service. They don't want to lose the personal touch, etc. Those types of considerations.
So you're probably referring to AI and ChatGPT and those type of things. So I say embrace it because convenience is something that we need in our day-to-day operations. Just like with Amazon delivering everything to us on a daily basis, we also need technology delivering and helping us deliver on our end product. So I'd say let's not operate from fear, and let's scale and achieve the results that our clients are looking us to achieve. Utilizing AI and technology is just inevitable. We can't just run away from it, right? And the human touch will always going to be needed, in my opinion. I don't think we would ever be able to transform our practices and businesses 100% to using technology and AI solely. I believe that we would just simply need to have good managers of the AI and tools that we have in place. And one of the things that the law firm clients would like to see is a faster delivery on the services. So I think if we only deliver faster as a law firm, then our client satisfaction will increase. So it's a good thing, in my opinion.
Do you think that when you're scaling up, I was also thinking about the idea of delegating. As you scale up, you need to delegate and delegate carefully and delegate a lot of tasks. Do you ever see any concerns on the part of clients that by delegating, they might they might lose sort of the individual touch with their clients?
Not at all. A
Okay.
delegation is a process
Hmm.
and a goal. It should be every entrepreneur's goal to delegate because if we're not delegating, we're not growing. And I am a big proponent of having specialized individuals within a law firms, folks that specialize in certain practice area and certain areas of case processing, even. So, delegation is the key to success, in my opinion. And a lot of solo practitioners, as a matter of fact, end up being solo practitioners for many years just because they're afraid to delegate, that someone will make a mistake or someone is not going to do it right,
Right.
or it's going to cost us a lot of money. My job as a consultant is to come in and actually um, change that. So we usually work on the fear factor, and we make sure that the fear is in the past. Literally in a couple of months of working together, the practitioners are no longer afraid to scale, are no longer afraid to delegate or use the technology. Um, that change is vital. And if we're not changing, then we're choosing to be in the same boat that we were yesterday.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was getting at. I've known, colleagues and acquaintances and so forth who were solos for many years, and they were limited really in how they could grow because of that kind of concern about delegating. They were uncomfortable with it, and but nowadays with the technology, you've just absolutely got to learn how to delegate intelligently, both to human beings and to the technology. So yeah, that's exactly the sort of thing I was talking about. But let's go to Scott and talk about some of these channels. So let's talk about email marketing, Scott. So how can law firms leverage email marketing campaigns to build and maintain relationships with their clients?
Yeah, so email marketing is a bit of a tricky one, right? Because um, for one, every law firm should be doing it as soon as they possibly can. And here's why. We've done a lot of research on it. One of the challenges with email is that it's really hard to attribute a lead to email marketing. Here's why. You'll send an email like a monthly newsletter, which I think is very wise about what's going on in the industry and what people need to know about, what's brand new, and then ask them to reach back out to us if they have another case or please forward this email to a friend or a family member that needs this information, right? So that's one of the most powerful things that you can do. We talked a lot about ROI. One of the tricks to it is that you send that email out and then the client will forward it to a friend, and then they'll maybe click on the website, right? Because they're reading it and go, oh, this is just what we were talking about. So they click on, they go to the website, and then they convert, and the credit, if you will, goes to the website when in fact it was a client referral off of an email. So it's called first attribution and second attribution. And we've just found that with email marketing, it's really hard to give the email credit for all the value that it's bringing. But I will say this is we spent 2 months just studying it like crazy at one of the law firms that Lucine and I were working with. And one of the things that we found is without question, without fail, email marketing always pays for itself. So it may do better because you just can't track everything. But after 2 exhaustive months of just tracking everything down, I'm completely confident that it always pays for itself. So if you have to hire someone to do it for you or hire an agency to design something impactful and buy list and keep list clean and manage the test and then send it for approvals and then launch it on a specific date and time. There's a lot that goes with newsletter type emails. Know for sure it always pays for itself plus some. Now, everyone should be sending out an email to their list, right? Which is in their CRM system, such as DockerWise. Um, but there is another one, another type of email marketing that people should consider, and that is around inbound marketing. So I don't know if you studied this or whatever, but like on the website, you can put ebooks and content that potential new clients are really fascinated with that helps answer their questions, puts them at ease. And as they download those for free, they just exchange their email for a free download. And therefore, you can tell where someone is in the buy-in cycle based on what they download. So, um, if they download everything you ever wanted to know about the fiance visa, then that probably says they're a little bit at the top of the funnel and they're just trying to get their arms around it. But if they download the ebook marked How to Choose the Best Immigration Attorney for You, then you know they're ready to make a decision right now. So that's inbound marketing, and email can be very powerful for people that want to introduce inbound marketing at their law firm.
Yes, absolutely, and those marketing assets, you know, in marketing, they refer to things like an ebook like that as a marketing asset.
Yes,
You know, that gets to your content, that also gets to your content marketing. So if
exactly.
if you could develop a wide variety of assets like that, that really showcase your professional expertise in immigration or family or whatever the field is, then you can leverage those assets. They're not that difficult to put together, right? But, uh, you know, you wanna deal with someone like Scott who really understands all the details of a coordinated email marketing campaign, but getting those marketing assets, out there is absolutely, the right move to do.
There's also repurposing those, which people just
Right.
kind of forget about, right? You can take something and you can make a video from it, and then you can transcribe it, and you've got a blog article, and you can take 2 or 3 blog articles and create an ebook, and you can take the video and you can just use the audio, and now you've got an audio. So you got audio, video, blog articles, ebooks, all off of the same single
Right.
content experience. And this is really how you help make marketing and your investment in marketing pay off, right? Is to create content. Marketing can be very powerful. And always remember that people want to hire the attorney that's the most helpful.
Absolutely. They wanna hire the attorney who's the most helpful, and they wanna have trust. They have to have trust, and we've talked a lot. I've done whole episodes of the podcast on building trust with clients. So that brings me to the next point of one of the things that helps to build trust with clients and
Mm,
potential clients are testimonials
yep.
and reviews. So let's talk about the importance of those and how you leverage testimonials and reviews in your marketing efforts.
So I think it's fair to say that reviews and from previous clients are going to be important to your law firm for the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, things change all the time, right? This is not going to change because it's really embedded in our culture now that I don't hire you unless I check your reviews. Now, you could be a plumber, you could be a home builder, you could be a pest guy, or you could be an attorney. But people have just learned through Amazon and eBay and Etsy and all these other tools, Yelp, even Avo, that you don't hire somebody without doing the research. And reviews from objective third party is what people rely on the most. So every attorney needs to remember that it's always going to be important over the next 10 years to have great Google reviews and Facebook reviews and Avo reviews. And not everybody's going to go looking for them. So I highly recommend that you get that information and you get it on your website and that you get it on like your Google business profile, and that you create content around that so people don't have to go dig to find out that you're great. And so what that means is you can take a nice Google review and create, like a graphic, and you can share that on social media so that they can be on social media because maybe that's their way of consuming content. And then you just brought forward, hey, here's a 5-star review from Scott. Here's what he said. So I don't have to go dig for that. So it's important that you get these testimonials, could be in writing, could be a video testimonial, that you get that out onto every platform that you have. Platform meaning YouTube, social media, the website, your Google business profile. Obviously, Google Business, which is Google Maps, YouTube, all owned by Google, right? So that's the biggest search engine on the planet, far and away, bar none. So you want to feed those tools with your reviews and your testimonials and your happy clients, because that's what people can find pretty easily because they're Google owned properties. So get it on your website. I love those pictures, James, of happy clients, and a mailing will come in, and a lot of times for like immigration clients, and they'll get their green cards or their notification, and they'll pose like this with the attorney, and that is so powerful. Never underestimate how powerful reviews and testimonials are because it'll build your brand and it'll build confidence and give you credibility that is really vital if you want new customers.
So you've got the Google reviews, you've got the testimonials on your website.
Yes.
How about video testimonials? I mean, do you utilize those? Are there any special considerations with them?
So interesting. The one consideration is if it's a law firm trying to get like a picture with a client, or a quick little video, I do recommend that you have them sign a release. I know it
Uh,
sounds all legal and everything, but you're going to put their face all over the internet. And
right.
so I think it's prudent that you just have a stack of those at the office and you have them sign real quick whenever you take their picture. So that's one consideration. I understand that it is a little bit tricky if someone comes into your office to get a video. So a lot of real savvy attorneys will set up a station and maybe put something in the background with their logos, all on it, or something that's decorated for professionalism and branding, and just kind of set up a camera or set up a phone and set up lighting so that all they have to do is maybe just drop their phone in there and then turn on the lights, and it makes it easy. You can
Mhm.
edit it later and
Right.
post it later. So I'm seeing people have a lot of success with that. And one of the one of the things, James, that's important is this is something you can do. It doesn't really cost you anything,
That's right.
you know? And as we're trying to grow our law firms, sometimes we have a lot of money and sometimes we're not there yet. So we have a lot of time. And so you can help yourself by doing these things that only you can do that don't actually cost you anything, which is grab happy clients and create testimonials. And I think that's one of the reasons why posting on TikTok is so popular. It's something that you can do that doesn't really cost you a lot of money, like maybe advertising. So I think this fits in that category.
Now, I mean, it's a reality that sometimes you can get negative feedback. Hopefully, you
Yeah,
don't
that
get
is
it,
true.
but you can get negative feedback or negative reviews. So,
Yep.
you know, part of your job as a marketing consultant is to teach attorneys, sort of how to manage that. So, how do you manage that?
Yeah. That's a tricky one, especially for we work with a lot of family and a lot of immigration clients, and those are both um, two practice areas that can get some blistering bad reviews. You know, the case doesn't get approved, whether it had anything to do with you, it's possible that somebody could really lash out. Or if it's a divorce case and you win, the other side can really lash out. So you got to know that that's part of the territory. And the best way to resolve that, there's two ways to to be proactive, and that is to get as many 5-star reviews consistently every single month, all the time as you can. Right. So every month, it's not every other month, it's every month. And then make sure that you have an agency or a consultant that's replying to the negative reviews for you, the positive ones, obviously, but the negative ones, or you've become really well adept at replying the negative ones yourself, because um, you can actually get a bad review, a 1-star review, and if you handle the reply well, it won't hurt you at all.
That's right.
It
Well,
won't
Scott,
hurt you at all.
if you don't answer, if somebody posts a negative review and maybe makes accusations or something, I mean, let's
Mm.
just look at it this way so people can kind of learn the lesson. If you don't respond to it, do you think there's something like you're almost, admitting by silence, or
You
you're
did it.
leaving open the
Yep.
possibility of people interpreting it that way?
Yep, you have nothing to say, and you're just basically saying it's true. I've been caught. We never returned your phone call. So you have to reply back, and not only that, Google does track how many reviews that you have and whether or not you're being responsive and replying. So that could end up hurting your how easy you are to be found if you don't reply. So you have to reply back, and you have to do it in a super professional way. There are actually books that you can get to learn how to reply perfectly. I think we tend to be very defensive, and that's one thing that you can't do.
Right.
You can't, but you say that, but I see some crazy things out there. People will just say you're a liar, because, we're emotionally invested in our firms. And so when someone says something that isn't exactly the way we perceived it, um, it can be hard to reply well. So you never be defensive, always professional, very humble, keep it short and sweet, but not rude. And I always recommend that you reach out to the person, even if you don't feel like it, and say, "Hey, we saw this. How else can I help you? Give me
Right.
one more
Try to make it
chance."
right.
Yeah, give me one more chance. And it's not just to get the review down. Um, Sometimes they won't, but then it allows you to reply back that, "Hey, thank you so much for talking this out with us. We really appreciated the time. Now we have a better understanding of how you feel, and we can't wait to work with you in the future." You reply back like that. Someone reads the 1-star review, there's no concern.
What do you think about this? I mean, if a lawyer feels like they might have difficulty articulating it or striking the right tone or putting everything they want to put in their response, maybe try to use the AI to
Well,
help
you
you
can now.
draft the perfect response, because that's one thing the AI is very good at is taking facts, synthesizing it, and
Yes,
also striking the tone. You can have it strike a
I
particular
love that.
tone. It's very good.
Yeah, I love that because, if we're left to our own devices, especially because we're attorneys and very fact based, we might say, okay, well, on January the 3rd,
Right.
you caught right. And man, when you go down that road, you hurt yourself more than you're
Mhm.
helping. So, love the idea of using AI to generate the right kind of professional response and tone.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something to this because I pay attention to Google reviews a lot, and that's one of the KPIs actually that I incorporate. I want for the employees to know that they should be asking for positive Google reviews and watching for negative Google reviews as well, and helping the firm to mitigate. So, oftentimes you'll see negative Google reviews from former employees posting, actually. So, Google is not a platform to express your, unpleasantries, so to speak, with your former employer. So that's something that the business owners can dispute. So there are some Google reviews that, talk about everything and anything but for the service that was provided to them, because that's not the platform for discussion, right? So we want to make sure as business owners to pay attention to the reputation management, not only on Google, but on other platforms as well. So when Scott and I work together on our joint accounts, so we truly pay attention to that, because in my opinion, for every negative review you need at least 10 positive reviews. So just ask for positive reviews when you're doing a good job, and that also boosts the employee morale as well, so they're happy that their name was mentioned somewhere on the platforms. Why not?
Absolutely. And Lucina, I wanted to ask you about leadership development because that is part of the consulting that you do. So you help, law firm owners and leaders to sort of develop their leadership capabilities. Let's talk about that. What are some of the key traits that you believe that every successful attorney should cultivate?
Sure. So achieving success is a personal pursuit. Leadership skills is something that can be developed, in my opinion. I believe that each one of us in the leadership seat should be constantly educating, self educating ourselves, and with the goal of passing the information and knowledge to the next person. Um, we want to be able to grow and multiply, and we as leaders we don't only have responsibility of making sure that our well-being is intact, but we're also responsible for our team members. So I always want to make sure that the owners of the firms uh, understand that they have a responsibility before their team members. We want to make sure that the retention is in place, because that also speaks to how good of a leader you are, right? So, are you articulating your goals and your vision? Are you a good visionary? And do you have the proper executionists on your team? Sometimes, I think of visionaries as artists. They will have something in mind that they want to see happening with their firm, but then they don't have their operators. And so I recommend that they get equipped with their operational knowledge and hire the proper operational support to be able to enhance their day-to-day operations, and to continue educating themselves, just simply because once you are a business owner and a true leader, you have a higher degree of responsibility than only for yourself. So that's something that we cover a lot, and we talk about um, job satisfaction that our team members would need to have. And as leaders, we need to make sure that the team members are not only growing, their knowledge base is growing, and they're growing financially as well. I find it particularly important in day-to-day operations, because the folks also need to be reaping the benefits of your success. If you're a good leader, you need to make sure that they're also being successful and feeling successful on top of that. So my goal of a consultant is to make sure that the leadership is equipped with proper knowledge and tools to be able to be successful, and see it in their day-to-day operations, and not only at the end of the year when they're looking at their bottom line.
Now, Lucine, and you do one-to-one coaching with the lawyers for leadership, and I've seen you refer to yourself as a lawyer whisperer. What do you mean by that?
Certainly, yes. So I don't limit myself to only having one-on-one sessions once a week or once a month. It doesn't work like that with me. Um, and I I may have 10 law firms a month that I am consulting with, and they all have access to me. They can text me, email me. We create this environment to where I am available to answer their questions on the go. And that's what I mean by the being a lawyer whisperer. So I am available to answer any and all of their questions, whether how they're feeling about their team members, their operations, their marketing, or their bank account, if you wish, right? So s- I'm really engraved into their day-to-day lives, and at the end of the day, I enjoy creating this friendships with my clients and celebrating successes on monthly basis, to where we're not it's not a formality. It's not set day when we're going to be discussing everything that we need to be discussing. We have those sessions on the calendar, but I'm also available to answer their questions as they come in, or reach out to them with anything that I see in the process of my management of the firm on a daily or weekly basis.
Now, so if you're setting up leadership goals, are these going to be organizational goals? Are they going to be individual goals? Are they going to be both?
Both.
Mhm.
So the organizational goals stem from having the goals that we set for the team members, for them to deliver on the set goals. Does that make sense? And for the law firm owner, we'll be looking on the overall goal that we'll set, that we will be discussing and reviewing on a monthly basis. So it's a monthly recurrence of review to review the set goals, to where they see the increase in their revenue and increase in the productivity and the quality of the work on a monthly basis. So we don't wait for the performance reviews in 6 months or a year from now to talk about what needs to be improved. We do it on a monthly basis.
Well, what are some of the leadership don'ts or mistakes or missteps that you see, and how do you help people correct them?
Every leader needs to have the support system that consists of the directors or managers that would need to be overseeing the team members. The mistakes that I'm seeing often, the the closeness between the business owner and the the team members. So there has to be a buffer, so to speak, to be able to communicate and articulate the requirements and the goals that we're setting. So oftentimes, um, the closeness actually either creates fear, or creates this feeling of the employee that everything is okay only if I am close to the business owner. And that's most of the times it happens in the smaller environments, in smaller firms under five team members. So I prefer that there is a buffer in between the leadership and and the team members, to be able to properly channel the expectations and measure the successes.
As you've been in this business and coaching lawyers, what are some leadership lessons that you have learned from working with various firms and attorneys, and how has that helped you refine your approach?
Absolutely. Every person that we work with um, gives us something to learn. It's a learning experience to be either softer or sometimes stricter, and um, I can see within my personality traits, my personality traits changing as I, dive into every single practice, and I see similarities in the approach, or I see trends that I kind of like borrow from previous client and incorporate with the new one. There's always a learning curve. We all learn from each other. Um, I'm trying to remember one that I can give you an example, but maybe we can come back to it.
Okay, sure, sure. Let's make sure that we get Scott into tell us about Immigration Nation podcast because I did mention that you're the host of that, and I do want to. So, how did Scott? How did that come about? And what do you try to cover on your podcast, and how can people tune in?
Oh yeah, thanks, James. It came about very organically. Here's why. We were doing a lot of video in the office because obviously video is great for content, and people, our lawyers that were clients were really enjoying it, and they're like, you know what, I'd like to do this every week, every 2 weeks, you know, what about, what if I made like a podcast? And of course, they don't have any idea what's involved in a podcast. As you know, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of work, way more than what you think. The technology, the processes, the editing, the planning. I mean, it feels like another whole job. And so I started telling people, like, you know what? We'll have a podcast. So we'll make a podcast for our immigration friends, and then you can just come on, enjoy all the benefits. You don't have to do any of the work. And so that's how it started. We started bringing them in every couple of weeks, once a month, and letting them just be the guest and let them answer frequently asked questions that people have. So they got to do all the fun part, but didn't have to do any of the work. And it's been, I don't know, about maybe a year and a half now, and we've won one international award for our work, and it's a lot of work, but it's really fun to see our clients and friends do really well. And Lucine's gotten involved. She's done several. She's co-hosted with me. She's actually hosted one of them when I wasn't available. So it's a lot of fun, and you can actually take some of those episodes and break it down into video shorts and release them on social media and stuff, which helps our lawyers with their kind of thought leadership positioning. So that's how it came about.
Yep. Are the episodes on your website or on the YouTube channel, both? Or
Oh yeah, well, they're on all the channels. They're on YouTube, Immigration Nation podcast, and then all the big channels: Amazon, Spotify, Immigration Nation podcast. Use all three words, and we even have a website, immigrationnationpodcast.com, where we've put them all on there. We actually, one of the things that is unique is we're first and foremost a video podcast, so everything gets recorded with like 3 or 4 cameras, so you get to see it and hear it. Um, so that's a little bit different in some podcasts or audio only. And Spotify, I think, just recently added the video capability to it. That's a brand new feature. Unfortunately for us, we had the videos, so we're beginning to kind of upload those to where people can either watch it or just listen.
understood. Yeah, I mean, the video podcast, like what I'm doing, the video podcast format, that's really the best of both worlds. But there's people who just want to do the audio. They like to watch it when they drive or they're commuting or something, and so you need to hopefully have available both modalities. But Lucine, let's talk a little bit about your role in staffing and personnel development. So, in terms of augmenting personnel, what does that typically look like when you're dealing with your clients for LT Global? What challenges are you trying to solve? How do you ensure that outsourced personnel align with the firm's culture and maintain the service standards?
Sure. So I'm a strong believer of making sure that the right person is in the right seat. Oftentimes, it go in, I'll see um, manager, especially with the law firms. This happens very often, and that have a manager that has no experience in the legal field managing a firm. So that happens very often, and or let's say an attorney that is asked specifically in the immigration field to now that we're kind of focused on the immigration side, be like to touch on that. Would be asking the owner would be asking the same lawyer to be drafting, researching, going to court, going to USCIS. I don't believe that the same person should be doing everything.
Mhm.
So I like dividing that up. And it's not uncommon for me to advise to utilize contractors in a law firm practice that are specialized in a certain area, because the dissatisfaction of having a lawyer or a paralegal even that is required to know and do it all is pretty high, to where we're asking the lawyer to draft, go to court, go to USCIS, and do all these things, but they may not be that great in drafting, but may be amazing in litigating cases or drafting briefs. So I see that a lot when they're asking way too much from one individual. So I'd like to, separate it up and augment it. When it comes to the paralegal world, again, I like when everybody is specialized.
Sure.
And if it's a smaller firm that cannot afford 10-15 year paralegal, then I'd recommend utilizing contractors instead of full-time employees and expecting them to do everything that they won't be able to do. So that's another way of doing it. Now, when it comes to the outsourced staff, because of my background in staffing and recruiting, I also, and especially in the immigration field, because I have the knowledge space, I know what I'm looking for. And I can do the knowledge check before placing them for a certain role. So that's the benefit of working with me, because I have the background. And obviously the continuous training. So I want them all constantly be training and training. And larger firms, actually in mid and larger firms, it's not uncommon to have a trainer, to have a team leader and a trainer. So if we don't have a trainer, I still ask that we have those training sessions at least once a month, to where people would come in and bring in their questions and get the training that they deserve.
Now, but what are some of the, give me an example of some of the KPIs that you would be assigning to the personnel. Are they, qualitative, quantitative, both? And, how often should you evaluate them?
Both. So I want everyone to be recording their time, whether they're attorneys or paralegals. So recording times and requiring certain number of hours, even if it's not a litigation firm where we have billable hours. So I want them still recording their time. And that's one KPI. The second goes by the number of cases they're filing on a monthly basis. Now, that's customized depending on the type of cases they handle and their capabilities. So, and the third would be, I usually ask the business owners to draft their core values, and we want to make sure that our team members are satisfying the core values, because we want to make sure that our team members know what's important to us to behave in such a way. Um, and that's important to me. So there were three things that I want us to measure on a monthly basis. And then there are different perks that exist for meeting those KPIs. And if they don't meet those KPIs, it's an easy separation as well. You can imagine, right? So it makes it very uh, the relationship becomes, on one side transactional, on the other side fun and rewarding.
So, with staff augmentation and today with outsourcing and so forth, smaller firms can, really use the staff augmentation to compete with larger firms without having everybody in house. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in today's world of technology, we can track everything, right? Everything that everybody's doing can be trackable, traceable. So the worry of, I don't know what my staff member is doing because they're not sitting next to me, is way gone, and that's not something that we should be worried about, in my opinion. So on the contrary, especially when we add the measurables, it makes it so much easier to track and just have everyone self-report and have that operational success that we're driving to get. So e- people can be sitting on the other side of the planet and doing the work for you while you're asleep, right? So it's a wonderful thing to have. Uh, Pre-COVID, honestly, I had to be convincing people to utilize staff that's outside of the country, but not anymore. So in today's environment with technology and you know the world becoming one, it's relatively easy to accomplish and be hand to hand with those bigger companies that have more staff. But even with that, even with larger companies, they're diving in right into the outsourced world, and they utilize technology. I think everybody is in in this world together, and it's just a wonderful place to be.
Now, Lucine, when firms are thinking about adopting technology or changing technology, I mean, that can involve, sometimes anxiety. They can have various concerns. So, I mean, what's your philosophy about that, and how do you approach that in terms of counseling firms on who are thinking about making technological changes and they have worries about it?
Absolutely. That comes up as number one topic in my engagement with law firms, actually, because what we can't measure, we can see. And I I need to have that CRM system to see what the staff is doing, because nobody has the time to create Excel spreadsheets, follow what's on the Excel spreadsheet. And you'd be surprised how many law firms just track the progress on an Excel spreadsheet, and how meticulous it could be to go back and check and see if the Excel spreadsheet's been updated. And and on top of it, you can't see things in the real time. So, in order for us to know what everybody is doing, if we're meeting our KPIs, if we're collecting the money that we're supposed to be collecting, because collections is another thing that it's another aspect of business, a big aspect of business um, that is in the same CRM. Uh, you know, I'd go over the importance of every aspect of the business: case notes, time recording, collections, revenue, KPIs, leads, and lead follow up. And then we'll see how they're managing it. And then we'll quickly discover all the loopholes that they're having. And then I'll introduce them to technology that I trust, and then we'll transfer to the technology that we can trust together. And oftentimes it is DocketWise and it is my case. And we've been really fortunate to have a great working relationship with this softwares that have allowed us to be successful in law firm growth and operational success as well.
And let me ask you a question about the AI, which has been the hottest sort of tech trend for the last couple of years now. And both to Lucine and to Scott, I mean, when you're dealing with firms and you're thinking about incorporating AI into either their operations or their marketing efforts, I mean, what kind of reception are you getting? Are you finding most lawyers these days receptive to the AI? Do you hear specific concerns voiced, and how do you address them?
Most people are surprised that there's been some AI already in, like Adobe software and Google advertising for over a year now. And so um, it hasn't quite changed that much on the marketing side. I think change is coming, especially when you look at with the government talking to Google about a monopoly, and they might have to give up Chrome. And so I think there is change coming, but it hasn't happened as quickly as maybe what Lucine is seeing, because of all the people that have created apps, AI apps for attorneys. That seems to be something to help them operationally. Like that happened very quickly. Not that they're great, but that part happened really quickly. The marketing part, I think, is gonna lag behind that a little bit. So I'll let Lucine talk about what she's seen.
I'm a big believer of AI. So I love AI. And why? Because it makes things faster.
Yeah.
Okay. So not that it's better, it's it's somewhat better, right, than it was before. So we've lived with AI for years now. We just didn't know we had it in every aspect of our business operations because nobody was talking about it as much and it wasn't as popular. But I think anything that makes things faster, I'm a big proponent of that. Now, lawyers, um, I see them being very receptive. The lawyers that like technology and see how efficiently we can be operating, um, they like it. There are some lawyers that um, are wondering if it's going to replace um, uh, something. So, but in my opinion, if it helps with the research, if it helps us draft and review the paperwork and summarize, why wouldn't we want to use it? Especially going back to immigration law firms, I would love for the AI tool to come in and review all the FOIAs, thousand page
Yeah.
FOIAs. That would be amazing. The high volume law firms, usually in my experience, I see hundreds of cases sitting on the chair, on the bench, on the desk, without getting reviewed for months. If it helps the practitioners to move things faster, why not? Now, for the litigation firms, I think that operate on a billable fee environment, it potentially could be more challenging, right, to meet their billable hours. But then that's a different question, a different structure, and perhaps they could be looking into flat fee environment. Those are just kind of topics that I've discussed with a few practitioners, and how to do that. But again, the business is changing, the map market is
Right.
changing, just like we've adapted to the outsourced team members of our team, and we're so receptive to it right now. We will be receptive to AI. Again, if things may get faster, better, why not? So, and I am so happy to see DocketWise utilizing AI now, with it's so easy to assemble packets and to create the index. It takes time to do those things. It seems to be very simple. Sometimes the practitioners will say, well, all I want from the paralegal is to put the packet together and do the index. Well, DocketWise will do it for you. So you just have the paralegals and legal assistants do the client communication, because that's something that I don't think AI is going to replace, not in the near future, because I personally get annoyed when I make a phone call and AI keeps trying to answer my question, then I hang up and then call again to ask for a human being. But when it things like um, putting things together and researching and reviewing, that would be fantastic. So I'm glad that DocketWise, in my case, they're going in that direction. It's just that cherry on top that will, you know, see it soon and move things in a better direction.
Absolutely. Thank you for those kind words, Lucine. And, it's really a fascinating time that we're in. We're in the early
Mhm.
phases of this AI revolution. We're still in the early days of it. And the technology is changing and the regulatory environment is changing and people's, creativity is really, blossoming. It's being, tested and it's blossoming with, all the applications that we're finding. And it's really has the opportunity to streamline, legal work and can play a role in all different facets of legal work. We've done some episodes on AI. We certainly have plenty more planned for the next year, but certainly a fascinating time to be following legal tech and especially AI. This has been an amazing conversation with two industry leaders in law firm marketing and in practice management consulting, Scott and Lucine. And thank you both for joining us. You've been wonderful. This has been extremely valuable discussion, and we're definitely going to have you back, over the next year and so forth, and continue to follow a lot of these issues. Thank you
Thank
both.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Congratulations to you, man.